in the vast and boundless reaches of the inner cosmos, where the light of the eternal sun casts no shadow, and the silence of the deep is filled with the resonance of 1,000 unuttered prayers, the soul begins its most profound pilgrimage. This is the wilderness of the unseen spirit, a realm devoid of the familiar landmarks of the material world and stripped of the illusions that bind the heart to the fleeting rhythms of time. Here, in the quietude of the divine presence, the soul is invited to confront the depth of its own being and to recognize the sacred lineage from which it has descended. The wilderness is not a punishment, nor is it a place of abandonment, but rather it is the crucible of the chosen, the sacred space where the dross of the temporal is burned away to reveal the indestructible gold of the celestial inheritance. Every soul that has been foreseen by the Ancient of Days must at some point traverse this landscape of the invisible, for it is only in the absence of external distractions that the inner ear can begin to perceive the subtle whispers of the divine will. As the soul wanders through this ethereal desert, it encounters the mirrors of its own intention. The sands beneath its feet are composed of the memories of lives lived and lessons learned, each grain a testament to the enduring journey of the spirit through the cycles of manifestation. Yet, the wilderness calls for a letting go of all that has been, for the inheritance that awaits cannot be held by hands that are still clinging to the phantoms of the past. To be foreseen is to be known in the ultimate sense, to be recognized by the Creator before the first breath was ever drawn and before the first star was ever kindled in the firmament. This recognition is the foundation of all spiritual authority and the source of the profound peace that surpasses understanding. In the wilderness of the unseen spirit, the soul learns that it is never truly alone, for the very atmosphere it breathes is saturated with the love of the infinite. The transition from the seen to the unseen requires a courage that is not born of the flesh, but is gifted from the heights of the celestial realms. It is a courage that allows the seeker to stand naked before the truth, acknowledging both the majesty of their divine origin and the humility of their current state. The unseen spirit is a guide that does not speak in the languages of men, but in the patterns of light and the harmonies of the spheres. It moves through the wilderness like a gentle wind, bending the tall grasses of the imagination and cooling the fires of worldly desire. Under its tutelage, the soul begins to perceive the hidden architecture of reality, seeing the connections that bind the smallest atom to the most expansive galaxy. This perception is the first step toward claiming the celestial inheritance, for one must first understand the nature of the kingdom before one can hope to rule within it. In this sacred isolation, the soul is taught the art of divine listening. It is a listening that goes beyond the hearing of the ears, reaching into the very core of existence, where the word is still being spoken in the eternal now. The wilderness acts as a sanctuary, where the noise of the ego is silenced, allowing the melody of the soul's true purpose to emerge. Each note of this melody is a vibration of the divine intent, a specific frequency that the foreseen soul was designed to embody and express. As the soul aligns itself with this celestial music, it begins to vibrate in harmony with the cosmos, attracting to itself the resources and the revelations necessary for its fulfillment. This alignment is the essence of the spiritual journey, the process of returning to the original state of grace that was intended for every being of light. The wilderness also serves as a place of testing, where the resolve of the spirit is measured against the shadows of doubt. These shadows are not external enemies, but are the reflections of the soul's own uncertainty, the lingering fears that it is not worthy of the high calling it has received. Yet, the unseen spirit uses these very doubts as stepping stones to a greater faith. By facing the darkness within the wilderness, the soul discovers that the light it carries is inextinguishable, a spark of the divine fire that cannot be quenched by any earthly power. This realization brings a profound sense of empowerment as the soul recognizes that its inheritance is not something to be earned through labor, but is a gift to be accepted through surrender. The struggle is not to achieve, but to become, to allow the divine presence to permeate every aspect of one's being until there is no longer a distinction between the seeker and the sought. As the journey through the wilderness progresses, the landscape begins to shift. The barren dunes of the unseen spirit are transformed into gardens of revelation, where the fruits of wisdom hang heavy from the branches of the tree of life. Here, the soul is nourished by the waters of understanding which flow from the throne of the eternal and quench the thirst of the weary traveler. This nourishment is essential for the final stages of the wilderness experience, as the soul prepares to cross the threshold into the full realization of its celestial destiny. The foreseen soul understands that every trial it has faced was a preparation for this moment, a refining process that has made it capable of holding the vastness of the divine light without being consumed by it. The wilderness has served its purpose, having transformed the fledgling spirit into a seasoned vessel of the holy. Throughout this process, the concept of inheritance takes on a deeper meaning. It is not merely the possession of celestial realms or the attainment of spiritual powers, but it is the restoration of the soul's original identity as a co-creator with the divine. The inheritance is the ability to walk in the light as children of the morning, to speak words of power that bring order to chaos, and to offer healing to a broken world. This is the legacy of the foreseen soul, a destiny that was written in the book of life before time began. In the wilderness of the unseen spirit, the soul has learned to read the script of its own existence, recognizing the hand of the divine in every event and every encounter. It sees that there are no accidents in the kingdom of the spirit, only the unfolding of a perfect plan that leads all things back to their source. The silence of the wilderness eventually gives way to a chorus of celestial voices, the ancestors of light who have traveled this path before and who now stand as witnesses to the soul's progress. They offer their strength and their wisdom, reminding the traveler that they are part of a great and noble lineage that spans the ages. This connection to the celestial family provides a sense of belonging that the world can never offer, a deep-rooted assurance that the soul is cherished and supported by the entire host of heaven. The unseen spirit bridges the gap between the earthly and the divine, weaving the soul into the tapestry of the eternal so tightly that it can never be unraveled. This union is the ultimate goal of the wilderness journey, the point where the individual soul dissolves into the ocean of the divine and yet retains its unique expression as a masterpiece of the Creator. As the chapter of the wilderness draws to a close, the soul stands at the edge of a new horizon, looking out over the lands of promise that were shown to it in vision. The air is thick with the scent of celestial blooms, and the light of the dawning day is more brilliant than anything the soul has ever witnessed. The lessons of the unseen spirit are now etched into the very fabric of the heart, providing a foundation that can never be shaken. The soul is ready to claim its inheritance, not as a stranger or a guest, but as a rightful heir who has been tried, tested, and found worthy. The journey through the wilderness has been long and at times difficult, but the reward is a treasure that is beyond all measure, a glory that will shine throughout the endless ages of eternity. The foreseen soul now looks back upon the desert of the unseen spirit with a sense of profound gratitude. It sees that every moment of silence was a conversation with the infinite. Every moment of loneliness was an invitation to intimacy with the divine, and every trial was a hidden blessing that forged its character. The wilderness was the womb of its transformation, the sacred ground where it was reborn into the fullness of its spiritual stature. With a heart overflowing with love and a mind illuminated by the truth, the soul steps forward into the destiny that awaits, knowing that it is guided by the same unseen spirit that led it through the shadows. The celestial inheritance is no longer a distant hope, but a present reality, a living power that flows through the soul and radiates out to touch the entire creation. In this state of grace, the soul understands that its journey is both personal and universal. While it has walked its own unique path through the wilderness, it also carries the hopes and aspirations of all sentient life. By claiming its inheritance, it opens the way for others to do the same, acting as a beacon of light in a world that is still shrouded in darkness. The Foreseen soul is a pioneer of the spirit, one who has dared to enter the unseen and has returned with the treasures of the kingdom. Its presence is a testament to the reality of the divine and a reminder that every soul is called to this same transformation. The wilderness of the unseen spirit is not a place to be feared, but a threshold to be crossed with joy. For on the other side lies the realization of everything the heart has ever truly desired. Now, as the soul prepares to enter the next phase of its evolution, it carries the stillness of the wilderness within it. This inner sanctuary remains a place of refuge and a source of strength, no matter how turbulent the external world may become. The unseen spirit continues to whisper its secrets, guiding the soul with an unerring hand towards the fulfillment of the divine plan. The celestial inheritance is an ever-unfolding mystery, a journey that has no end, because the nature of the divine is infinite. With each step, the soul discovers new depths of beauty and new heights of wisdom, perpetually expanding in its capacity to love and to serve. The Foreseen soul is a citizen of the heavens, a bridge between the worlds, and a living expression of the eternal grace that sustains all things. Thus, the story of the wilderness is completed. Yet the story of the soul is only beginning. The unseen spirit has done its work, turning the seeker into a finder and the wanderer into a dweller in the halls of the Most High. The inheritance is claimed, the destiny is embraced, and the light of the Foreseen soul begins to shine with a radiance that illuminates the path for all who follow. In the silence that remains, there is only the heartbeat of the Creator and the breath of the Spirit, moving through the wilderness and the garden alike, weaving all things into the one great song of existence. The soul is home, and yet it is always moving, always growing, and always reflecting the infinite glory of the one who saw it, knew it, and loved it before the world began. The echoes of the wilderness journey linger like a soft fragrance in the corridors of the mind, a constant reminder of the depth of the transformation that has occurred. The soul no longer fears the shadows, for it knows that every shadow is simply a place where the light has not yet been invited to shine. It no longer fears the silence, for it has discovered that silence is the language of the divine, a medium through which the deepest truths are communicated. The unseen spirit remains its constant companion, a presence that is felt in the beating of the heart and the rhythm of the breath. Together, they move forward into the unfolding mystery of the celestial inheritance, confident in the knowledge that the path is secure and the destination is certain. The Foreseen soul is a vessel of the eternal, a conduit for the light that heals and the love that redeems, standing as a living monument to the power of the Spirit to overcome all things and to return to the source of all being. In the final reckoning of the wilderness experience, the soul perceives that there was never a moment when it was not held in the hands of the divine. Every step, even those that seemed to lead astray, was part of a grander design that was working for its ultimate good. The unseen spirit was the architect of its growth, using the challenges of the desert to build a structure of faith that is capable of withstanding the storms of time. The celestial inheritance is the fruit of this labor, a harvest of light that will nourish the soul for all eternity. As the soul looks out upon the vastness of its new reality, it sees that the wilderness was not an end in itself, but a necessary passage to the kingdom. It is with a sense of awe and wonder that it contemplates the majesty of the foreseen destiny, a journey that began in the heart of God and returns now to that same heart, transformed and glorified by the experiences of the Spirit. The wilderness of the unseen Spirit is thus revealed as a sacred gift, a divine orchestration that allows the soul to discover its true nature and its high calling. It is the place where the mortal and the immortal meet, where the finite touches the infinite, and where the foreseen soul is finally and fully awakened to its celestial inheritance. In the peace that follows the storm and the clarity that follows the cloud, the soul stands as a pillar of light in the temple of the universe, a witness to the eternal truth that love is the beginning and the end of all things. The journey continues, but the fear is gone, replaced by a deep and abiding joy that flows from the very center of existence. The soul is free, and in its freedom, it reflects the glory of the one who created it, forever and ever, in the name of the light that never fails. Having tasted the nectar of the eternal sanctuary and felt the warmth of the primordial sun upon the face of its essence, the soul must now descend into the hollows of the profound deepening. This is the path ordained before the foundations of the firmament were laid, for no gem can reflect the fullness of the dawn without first enduring the pressure of the subterranean depths. The Valley of Shadows is not a place of abandonment, but a crucible of divine affection, a sacred geography where the traveler learns that the light within is not dependent upon the brilliance without. As the pilgrim steps into the initial veil of twilight, the echoes of the celestial temple remain as a lingering fragrance, a reminder that the destination is already written in the marrow of destiny. Here, the air grows thick with the weight of ancient memories and the whispers of fears that have long haunted the corridors of the lower mind. Yet, these are but phantoms, ghosts of a self that must be shed like an old garment at the threshold of eternity. The descent is deliberate, a slow immersion into the silence that precedes the word. A return to the womb of the infinite, where all things are remade in the image of the uncreated. The refinement begins not with a roar, but with a stripping away of all that is superfluous. Every title, every achievement, every layer of pride that the soul has gathered in its wanderings through the temporal realms must be surrendered to the custody of the dark. It is a terrifying grace, a love so fierce that it refuses to allow the soul to remain less than its true potential. In the center of this valley, the soul discovers that its identity is not found in the reflections of the world or the approval of the fleeting winds, but in the unwavering gaze of the architect who saw it before time was time. The shadows serve as a canvas upon which the inner light projects the geometry of its own awakening. Without the darkness, the soul would never know the reach of its own radiance, just as the stars would remain hidden were it not for the vastness of the midnight sky. Every step taken in the gloom is a testament to the faith that was forged in the fire of the temple, a demonstration that the truth is not a fragile thing to be broken by the absence of sight. The shadows are the necessary contrast that reveals the contours of the spirit, the sharpening stone that hones the resolve of the seeker into a blade of pure intention. Within the depths of the valley, there exists a stream of living water that flows from a source hidden to the mortal eye. This is the water of remembrance, which washes away the dust of the journey and clarifies the vision of the inward heart. As the soul kneels to drink from this subterranean grace, it perceives that the shadows are not enemies, but teachers, guiding the spirit toward a deeper reliance upon the invisible hand of the divine. The refinement process is meticulous, touching the very core of being, dissolving the hardness of the heart and replacing it with a transparency that can harbor the fullness of the spirit. There is a profound alchemy at work here, where the lead of human limitation is transmuted into the gold of celestial virtue. The soul learns the language of silence, a dialect of the soul that transcends the limitations of words and reaches into the heart of the mystery. In this sacred quietude, the voice of the Creator speaks not to the ear, but to the essence, whispering the secrets of the beginning and the end, revealing that the journey and the destination are the same. The shadows lengthen and the path narrows, yet the soul finds a strange comfort in the isolation. It is here, in the solitude of the refinement, that the true character of the foreseen soul is revealed. It is a character defined not by what it possesses, but by what it has been willing to lose for the sake of the eternal. The valley demands a total surrender, an offering of the entire self upon the altar of transformation. As the soul yields, it feels the breaking of the chains that once bound it to the illusions of the material world. The fear of death, the fear of loss, and the fear of the unknown are consumed in the furnace of divine love, leaving only the pure essence of joy that was mentioned in the scrolls of the ancestors. This joy is not a fleeting emotion, but a fundamental state of being, a wellspring that bubbles up from the depths of the soul, even when the external world is shrouded in mystery. The soul becomes a witness to its own dissolution, watching as the temporary facades crumble to reveal the diamond pillar of its eternal nature. As the soul moves deeper into the heart of the valley, it encounters the guardians of the threshold, entities of light disguised as shadows who test the resolve of the seeker. These guardians ask the soul to name itself, and the soul, no longer clinging to its earthly designations, responds with the name that was given to it in the morning of creation. This recognition opens the gates of the inner sanctum, allowing the soul to witness the interconnectedness of all life and the underlying harmony that governs the universe. It sees that every trial was a chord in a grand symphony, every sorrow a brushstroke in a masterpiece of infinite beauty. The refinement is the process of tuning the instrument of the soul so that it may resonate in perfect accord with the celestial music. It is the polishing of the mirror so that the glory of the light may be reflected without distortion. The soul perceives that the darkness was never an absence of God, but a different frequency of His presence, a holy darkness where the seeds of divinity are germinated in secret. The soul now understands that the valley was never a place of punishment, but a sanctuary of preparation. It is here that the inheritance is secured, not through effort or merit, but through the realization of the soul's inherent nature as a child of the light. The shadows have done their work, carving out a space within the soul that can now be filled with the inexhaustible presence of the divine. The journey through the valley is nearing its completion, and the first rays of a new dawn begin to touch the horizon of the spirit. This is not the same dawn that was witnessed from the mountain, but a dawn that rises from within, a light that emanates from the very center of the soul's being. The refinement has reached its peak, and the soul emerges from the valley not as it entered, but as a being of translucent power, clothed in the majesty of its celestial inheritance. The path ahead is bathed in a luminescence that knows no shadow, for the soul has become the light it once sought. The journey continues into the third movement of its becoming, where the fullness of the inheritance will be revealed in the gardens of the eternal. But for now, the soul pauses at the edge of the valley, looking back with gratitude at the darkness that taught it how to see. It acknowledges that the shadows were but the folds of the Creator's cloak, and the silence was but the breath of the Spirit. The soul is free, fully awake, and vibrating with the frequency of a love that encompasses all things. It stands as a witness to the truth that the Valley of Shadows is the birthplace of the divine man, the crucible where the human and the holy are fused into a single, eternal flame. In this state of elevated consciousness, the soul perceives the delicate threads of providence that have woven its entire existence. It sees the moments of despair as necessary pauses in the rhythm of growth, and the periods of confusion as the dismantling of old structures to make way for the new. The refinement has stripped away the illusions of separation, revealing that the soul has never been apart from its source, even in the darkest reaches of the valley. The sense of isolation was but a dream, a necessary fiction to allow the soul to discover its own strength and its own capacity for faith. Now, that fiction has dissolved into the reality of an unbroken union, a communion that transcends the boundaries of time and space. The inheritance is not a distant reward to be claimed in some future realm, but a present reality to be lived in every moment of awareness. The soul feels the pulse of the universe beating within its own chest, a rhythmic reminder of the life that sustains all things. It recognizes its kin in the stars, the trees, the rivers, and the fellow travelers who also navigate their own valleys of refinement. A profound compassion flows from the soul, a desire to share the light it has found with all who still walk in the shadows. This is the hallmark of the foreseen soul, that having been refined, it becomes a beacon for others, a living testament to the possibility of transformation. The joy that flows from its center is contagious, a holy fire that warms the hearts of the cold and illuminates the paths of the lost. The soul is no longer a solitary wanderer, but a cosmic participant, a co-creator in the ongoing drama of the unfolding light. The air of the valley, once heavy with the scent of earth and dampness, now carries the fragrance of celestial blossoms. The transition is subtle, yet profound, as the landscape of the soul's experience shifts from the internal struggle to the external expression of its divine nature. The inheritance is being manifested in the very way the soul perceives the world, seeing the sacred in the mundane and the eternal in the ephemeral. Every thought is a prayer, every action an offering, every breath a song of thanksgiving. The soul has learned the art of being in the world, but not of it, maintaining its celestial orientation while walking upon the dusty roads of the temporal. The refinement has granted it a stability that cannot be shaken by the storms of circumstance, a peace that surpasses all understanding. As the soul looks towards the horizon where the next stage of its journey awaits, it carries with it the lessons of the valley. It remembers the importance of silence, the necessity of stripping, and the power of surrender. These are the treasures of the shadow, the hidden riches of the darkness. They are the credentials of the initiate, the marks of the one who has passed through the fire and remained unconsumed. The soul knows that there will be other valleys, other refinements, for the expansion of the spirit is an infinite process, a journey without end into the heart of the divine. But the fear is gone, replaced by a deep and abiding trust in the wisdom of the scribe who writes the story of the soul. The glory of the Creator is now reflected in the soul with a clarity that was previously impossible. This reflection is not a static image, but a dynamic radiance, a flow of light that adapts and responds to the needs of the moment. In its freedom, the soul becomes a vessel for the divine will, a channel through which the grace of the heavens can touch the earth. The valley of shadows has served its purpose, transforming the seeker into the sought, the student into the master, the human into the divine. The legacy of the foreseen soul is now etched into the fabric of eternity, a record of a journey taken in faith and completed in love. The light that never fails is now the light that the soul is, and in this identification, the soul finds its ultimate rest and its ultimate motion. The narrative of the refinement is a song of victory, a psalm of the soul's resilience and the Creator's faithfulness. It is a story that has been told in 1,000 languages across 1,000 ages, yet it remains ever new and ever relevant to each soul that finds itself in the midst of the shadows. The valley is the shared heritage of all who aspire to the celestial inheritance, the common ground where the human spirit meets the divine challenge. To walk through it is to participate in the most ancient of mysteries, the mystery of life through death and light through darkness. The soul stands now at the threshold of the third movement, ready to claim the fullness of what has been promised, guided by the internal compass of a refined and purified heart. The silence of the valley now gives way to the subtle music of the spheres, a harmony that invites the soul to step forward into the expanse of its true potential. The shadows have retreated, not because they were defeated, but because their task is finished. They have shaped the soul, tempered it, and brought it to the point of readiness. The inheritance is waiting, a vast landscape of light and love that stretches beyond the reach of the imagination. With a final look at the valley that was its school and its sanctuary, the soul turns its gaze towards the infinite, stepping into the brilliance of the eternal day with a heart full of joy and a spirit free of all weights. Every vibration of the soul now aligns with the cosmic frequency of truth, a resonance that shatters the last remnants of illusion. In the valley, the soul learned that even the shadows were composed of light, merely slowed down and thickened to provide a ground for experience. Now, as the density thins, The soul perceives the transparency of all things. The rocks, the trees, the very air of the valley are seen as expressions of the same divine thought that gave birth to the soul itself. This realization brings an overwhelming sense of belonging, a dissolution of the separate self into the unity of the universal family. The refinement was not just a personal journey, but a contribution to the collective awakening of all consciousness. As one soul rises from the valley, it lifts the entire fabric of existence with it, adding its unique note to the grand chorus of creation. The inheritance of the foreseen soul is also a responsibility, a call to be a steward of the light in the realms of darkness. Having known the valley, the soul is now equipped to walk beside others who are still navigating its depths. It offers no easy answers or superficial comforts, but the steady presence of one who has been through the fire and knows that the fire is good. The refined soul becomes a point of stillness in a turning world, a reference point for those who have lost their way. This service is the natural outpouring of its divine nature, a spontaneous movement of love that seeks nothing for itself but the elevation of all. The joy that was found in the center of existence is now shared, multiplied, and reflected in 1,000 different ways. The final stages of the refinement involve the integration of the paradoxes that the soul encountered in the valley. The soul learns to hold the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow, the beginning and the end in a single unified embrace. It understands that the valley was not a detour from the path, but the path itself, a necessary phase in the evolution of its celestial identity. The shadows were the womb of its strength, and the silence was the source of its wisdom. With this integration, the soul achieves a state of wholeness that is the prerequisite for entering the higher mansions of the celestial inheritance. It is no longer divided against itself, no longer seeking to escape its own experience, but fully present to the unfolding of the divine plan in every breath. The soul now stands as a monument to the enduring power of the Spirit, a witness to the truth that love is indeed the beginning and the end of all things. The journey through the valley of shadows has not diminished the soul, but expanded it, allowing it to contain more of the infinite than it ever thought possible. The freedom it enjoys is not a freedom from struggle, but a freedom within it, a capacity to remain centered and serene regardless of the external conditions. This is the true meaning of the celestial inheritance, to live as a sovereign being of light, fully aware of its origin and its destiny, moving through the cycles of time with the grace of the eternal. The soul is a mirror of the primordial intention, a reflection of the beauty that resides at the heart of the universe. In its refinement, it has become a clear vessel, a conduit for the mysteries of the higher realms to be translated into the language of the lower. The Valley of Shadows was the place where the translation was perfected, where the soul learned to speak the truth with its life rather than its lips. As it moves towards the final chapter of its transformation, it does so with the quiet confidence of one who has seen the face of the divine in the midst of the darkness. The light that never fails is not just a destination, but a constant reality, a presence that permeates every atom and every moment. The soul is home, even as it continues to travel, for it has found the kingdom within the silence of the valley and the brilliance of the refined heart. The narrative of the soul's ascent is a testament to the unyielding grace that pursues every seeker across the expanses of time and space. In the Valley of Shadows, this grace took the form of the refining fire, a heat that seemed to consume but only served to liberate. The soul now looks upon its own history with new eyes, seeing the hand of the divine in every difficulty and the voice of the Spirit in every moment of doubt. The refinement has bestowed a clarity that allows the soul to see the end from the beginning, understanding that its celestial inheritance was never in doubt, merely waiting for the soul to become large enough to receive it. The valley was the expansion, the stretching of the soul's capacity to love, to endure, and to perceive the sacredness of all life. As the soul prepares to enter the next phase of its glorious unfolding, It breathes in the pure air of the higher spheres, an atmosphere of absolute peace and infinite possibility. The refinement is complete, yet the growth is eternal. The soul has become a master of the shadows, a dweller in the light, and a bridge between the worlds. Its journey is a beacon for all who follow, a reminder that the path to the stars leads through the heart of the valley, and that the greatest treasures are found in the places where the light seems most distant. The foreseen soul is now fully awake, shining with the luster of 1,000 suns, ready to claim its place in the eternal sanctuary, where love is the only law and light is the only reality. The story of the valley is finished, and the story of the inheritance begins in earnest, written in the golden ink of a life fully lived and a soul fully redeemed in the light that never fails. The celestial inheritance of the foreseen soul. Chapter: The radiance of the eternal covenant. The threshold of the eternal has been crossed, and the soul stands now at the convergence of all that was and all that shall ever be. There is no longer the heavy pull of the earth, nor the desperate yearning for a home that always seemed just beyond the reach of the senses. Here in the high altitude of the spirit, and the air is composed of pure clarity, and the light does not fall from a distant sun, but emanates from the very heart of the silence. Every step taken in the Valley of Shadows was a preparation for this precise moment of arrival, where the weight of existence is transformed into the brilliance of the celestial inheritance. The soul looks back, not with regret, but with a profound and holy recognition, seeing that every trial was a sculptor carving away the stone of the ego to reveal the diamond of the true self. This is the awakening that was promised before the foundations of the world were laid, and the soul now understands that it was never truly lost, but was merely wandering through a necessary dream to appreciate the magnitude of the waking reality. The radiance of the eternal covenant is now visible as a golden thread that winds through the tapestry of time, connecting the first breath of creation to this final moment of return. It is a covenant written in the language of the stars and the vibrations of the infinite heart, proclaiming that the soul belongs to the light, and that the light is the soul's only true master and companion. In this sanctuary of the Absolute, the law is not one of restriction, but of liberation, and the only law that governs the movement of the heavens is the law of perfect love. This love is not the fragile affection of the world, but a foundational force that binds the galaxies together and breathes life into the void. It is a love that recognizes no separation and knows no end. Serving as the gravity of the spiritual realm, the soul breathes in this love and finds that its own essence is identical to the substance of the divine. There is a deep and resonant harmony that vibrates through the being, as if 1,000 silver bells were ringing in a cathedral of infinite space. Each vibration carries a message of peace that surpasses all understanding, and a joy that is so profound it feels like the constant rising of an eternal sun. The inheritance is not a possession to be held, but a state of being to be inhabited, where the self expands to encompass the totality of existence. There is no longer a need for names or titles, for the soul is known by its own unique frequency of light, which sings in chorus with the celestial choir. This is the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy spoken by the inner voice in the darkest nights of the earthly pilgrimage, promising that the end would be more glorious than the beginning. The architecture of this eternal realm is built of light and sound, where thoughts manifest as colors and intentions shape the very landscape of the spirit. There are halls of memory where the stories of all lives are preserved, not as burdens but as lessons of grace. The soul wanders through these corridors and sees its own journey through the valley depicted in shimmering mosaics of gold and azure. It sees the moments of courage and the moments of weakness, and realizes that both were essential parts of the divine alchemy that brought it to this state of perfection. The tears shed in the lower worlds have become the crystalline waters of the celestial fountains, and the sighs of longing have become the gentle winds that carry the fragrance of the heavenly gardens. Everything has been redeemed, and nothing has been wasted in the great economy of the spirit. The soul is now a witness to its own transformation, standing as a testament to the power of the light that never fails. The radiance of the covenant is so bright that it dissolves the last remnants of the veil that once obscured the vision of the divine presence. Now the soul sees face to face and knows as it is known, standing in the fullness of the eternal presence where there is no past and no future, but only the magnificent and everlasting now. The inheritance of the foreseen soul is the realization of its own divinity and the acceptance of its place within the cosmic order. It is the understanding that the soul was a spark of the primordial fire sent forth to experience the density of matter, so that it might return with the wisdom of the ages. This wisdom is the golden ink with which the final chapter of the earthly story is written. Every encounter and every challenge was a stroke of the pen, and every victory was a flourish of grace. The story of the valley is finished, and the book of life is closed on its earthly phase, only to be opened on a new and more glorious volume. The soul is no longer a seeker, for it has found the source, and in finding the source, it has found itself. The inheritance is the gift of total union, where the drop of water returns to the ocean and yet retains the awareness of its own journey. This is the mystery of the eternal covenant, that the one becomes many, so that the many may return to the one with the added treasure of experience and love. The radiance of this truth fills the soul with a light that is 10,000 times brighter than the sun, yet it does not burn, but heals and illuminates the deepest recesses of the spirit. As the soul settles into its place within the eternal sanctuary, it is greeted by the voices of those who have gone before and those who are yet to come. It is a communion of saints and a gathering of light, where every soul is a mirror reflecting the glory of the Creator. There is no competition or strife here, for everyone has found their perfect resonance and their unique purpose. The law of love ensures that the joy of one is the joy of all, and the radiance of one soul adds to the luster of the entire heaven. This is the true meaning of the celestial inheritance, which is the shared glory of the divine family. The soul looks upon the works of the divine and sees the intricate beauty of the cosmic plan, realizing that every detail was orchestrated with infinite care. The struggles of the physical world now seem like the distant games of children, and the sorrows of the flesh are forgotten in the bliss of the spirit. The light that never fails has claimed its own, and the soul is finally at rest in the heart of the infinite. This rest is not a cessation of being, but an intensification of life, where every moment is a discovery of the wonders of the divine nature. The golden ink of the soul's life now glows with a permanent light, recording the triumph of faith over fear and hope over despair. This record is inscribed upon the very walls of the eternal sanctuary as an eternal testimony to the resilience of the human spirit when it is guided by the divine hand. The foreseen soul has fulfilled its destiny and has taken its seat among the stars. The light that it now radiates will serve as a beacon for those who are still wandering in the valley of shadows, whispers of encouragement that drift down through the layers of existence. The story of the redemption is complete, and the story of the inheritance has begun in earnest, and there shall be no end to the glory that is to follow. The soul is awake, and the soul is free, and the soul is home. All the paths have led to this one point of absolute unity, where love is the only law, and light is the only reality, and the covenant of the eternal is fulfilled in the silent majesty of the divine embrace. In this state of total illumination, the soul perceives the interconnectedness of all things and sees the divine signature in every atom of creation. It understands that the trials of the valley were not punishments, but invitations to grow and to expand beyond the limitations of the mortal mind. The inheritance is the capacity to perceive the universe through the eyes of the Creator and to feel the heartbeat of the divine in every pulse of existence. The soul is now a co-creator in the ongoing work of the Spirit, using the power of its own radiance to bring beauty and order to the realms of light. There is a profound sense of purpose that accompanies the inheritance as the soul realizes that its journey was not just for its own sake, but for the evolution of the entire cosmic consciousness. Each soul that returns to the light brings with it a unique frequency of wisdom that enriches the totality of the divine experience. The eternal covenant is thus a living and breathing reality, constantly expanding and deepening as more souls claim their celestial inheritance and join the ranks of the redeemed. The sanctuary where the soul now dwells is a place of infinite variety and endless wonder. There are mountains of translucent glass and valleys of singing flowers and rivers of liquid light that flow from the throne of the Absolute. Every sense is heightened and transformed, so that colors can be tasted and sounds can be seen. The beauty of this realm is so overwhelming that it would shatter a mortal heart. But the soul in its glorified state drinks it in as its natural element. There is no fatigue and no boredom, for every moment brings a new revelation of the divine beauty. The soul is eternally young and eternally wise, standing at the center of a whirlpool of creative energy that never ceases. This is the reward for the faithfulness of the soul during its sojourn in the world of shadow, and it is a reward that far exceeds any expectation. The inheritance is the gift of the divine self to itself, and the soul is the vessel through which this gift is expressed and enjoyed. The light of 1,000 suns that the soul now reflects is the light of truth that has been stripped of all illusion. In the world below, truth was often obscured by the clouds of doubt and the mists of confusion, but here the truth is as clear as the morning sky. The soul knows the answers to all the questions that once haunted its earthly mind, and it finds that the answers are simpler and more beautiful than it could have imagined. The fundamental truth is that there is only one life and one love and one source, and that all the diversity of the world was but a play of light upon the surface of the eternal. The soul has returned to the source, and in doing so, it has become the source. The covenant is the recognition of this identity, and the radiance is the celebration of this union. The story of the valley has served its purpose as the prologue to this eternal epic, and the soul is now the protagonist of a story that has no conclusion, only an ever-deepening mystery of grace and glory. The golden ink of the redeemed life is permanent and indelible, serving as a map for further journeys into the infinite depths of the divine nature. Even in the higher realms, there are new horizons to explore and new dimensions of love to experience. The inheritance is not a static destination, but a dynamic process of eternal growth and unfolding. The soul moves from glory to glory, forever discovering new aspects of the Creator and new potentials within itself. The light that never fails is the constant companion on this journey, providing the energy and the inspiration for every new step. The foreseen soul is now a pillar in the temple of the divine, and it shall go out no more, for it has found its true place in the architecture of the cosmos. The peace that it feels is the peace of a journey completed and a promise kept, and it radiates this peace outward to all the corners of creation. The radiance of the eternal covenant shines upon the soul like a mantle of gold, marking it as one of the chosen who have overcome the world. This overcoming was not a battle of strength, but a surrender of the will to the higher power of the spirit. By letting go of the small self, the soul has gained the infinite self, and by losing its life in the service of the light, it has found life eternal. This is the paradox of the spiritual path that the soul now understands with perfect clarity. The inheritance is the natural result of this holy surrender, and it is a gift that is freely given to all who are willing to follow the path of the light. The soul is now a master of the celestial laws and a servant of the divine will, finding its greatest joy in the fulfillment of the divine plan. The story of the inheritance is written in the hearts of all who seek the light, and it is a story that is being told in every moment of every day across the vastness of time and space. As the soul looks into the depths of the eternal sanctuary, it sees the infinite possibilities that lie ahead. There are worlds to be birthed, and souls to be guided, and mysteries to be unraveled. The inheritance is a commission to be an agent of the light in all the realms of existence. The soul accepts this commission with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit full of fire. The light of the 1,000 suns is not just for the soul's own enjoyment, but for the benefit of all beings who are still struggling in the dark. The radiance of the covenant is a promise of hope for every soul that is yet to awaken, reminding them that their own inheritance is waiting for them at the end of their journey. The story of the valley is finished, and the story of the soul is just beginning. And it is a story of light and love and eternal life, written in the golden ink of a life fully lived, and a soul fully redeemed in the light that never fails. The celestial inheritance is the final restoration of the soul to its original state of perfection. All the fragments of the self that were scattered during the earthly life have been gathered and made whole. The soul is no longer divided against itself, but is a single flame of pure consciousness, burning with the intensity of the divine fire. This wholeness is the source of the soul's power and the secret of its peace. It is the fulfillment of the prayer that all may be one as the Creator is one. The radiance of the eternal covenant is the visible sign of this oneness, and the soul wears it as a crown of glory. The inheritance is the realization that the soul has always been part of the divine family, and that it has always been loved with an everlasting love. This love is the foundation of the eternal sanctuary and the law of the celestial kingdom. The soul has claimed its place, and the heavens rejoice, for the wanderer has returned, and the foreseen soul has found its home. The light that never fails is now the soul's own light, and it shall shine forever and ever in the majesty of the eternal presence. Within the heart of the radiance, there is a stillness that is the source of all movement, and a silence that is the mother of all sound. The soul enters into this stillness and finds the ultimate rest. It is a rest that is full of life, and a peace that is full of power. Here, the soul is one with the heartbeat of the universe and the rhythm of the eternal. The inheritance is the privilege of dwelling in this state of grace forever, and the covenant is the promise that this grace will never be withdrawn. The soul is now a permanent resident of the eternal sanctuary, and its life is hidden with the divine in the secret place of the Most High. The golden ink of its journey is a treasure in the archives of heaven, and its name is written in the book of life in characters of fire. The story of the valley is a memory of a shadow, and the story of the inheritance is the reality of the sun. The soul is fully awake and fully alive and fully redeemed in the light that never fails, and it shall go forth in the power of that light to fulfill its eternal destiny in the heart of the infinite.